What is going on, everybody? This is Zach Nur, one of the hosts of Blast Beats. Welcome back after a short hiatus with my co-host Chris Spooner. How you doing there, Spoon?
Doing fantastic. Had a pretty eventful little hiatus here. So glad to get back to recording the podcast with you. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. A lot of crazy stuff going on. Excuse me as I pop a beverage. It's been a long week. It's Friday. Have the nice day off. But yeah, it's been a couple good weeks of releases. It's been fantastic. A lot of cool things to talk about. You yourself got to see some live music in that break at Louder Than Life, and I'm so excited to hear how that
Mm-hmm.
went. But yeah, without further ado, I feel like we just have to really just kick right into this. One thing you guys might notice here, we're live. This is us. Hey, what's going on? The first episode, we'll do it live. Which is what this is titled. I told Chris before the show, I say before the show, before the podcast, before the episode, I had that Bill O'Reilly quote just going through my head the entire time after he told me about this idea of doing it. An inspiration for the title. But yeah, so let's kick it off, Spoon. How's Louder Than Life?
Louder Than Life, man. That was a trip. That was fantastic. I had an absolute blast seeing it. It was far better of a festival experience than I've had before. Like we talked about on one of our previous shows. I'd only had one festival type show prior to this, and it was kind of a nightmare. But this one was a complete 180 from that experience. The weather was beautiful. The stages were all set up really well. Vendors were all over the place. There were a lot of people, but it never really felt crowded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was just a great overall experience, atmosphere wise. That I'm really glad that I took in, and the music was incredible. I missed Bad Flowers set,
Okay.
but from the Airbnb that I was at while I was outside waiting for my Uber to take me to the show, I could hear their set.
Okay. Okay.
So they sounded good. I have no idea what they looked like on stage, but they sounded really good.
Okay.
I got there just in time to see the Who's set.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right. We've had that conversation
Yeah,
before.
and that was really great. They sounded great. They had a lot of really great energy. Even for a band that you could tell speaks very little English.
Yeah.
They were still doing their thing up on stage and trying to get the crowd involved, and it was a really nice set, and they capped it off with one of their Metallica covers, which
Okay.
was a nice kind of intro into what we would get later on in the day with Metallica ending the night. It was I was really impressed with the Who, and then kind of later on in the day, I heard but didn't watch Breaking Benjamin's set.
Okay.
Again, they were really good. The surprise of the day for me personally was seeing Sabaton.
Okay. Okay.
I think they're from Sweden. They're the heavy metal band that does primarily songs focused on World War I history.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, they're a really interesting band. World War I and World War II, I should say. Really interesting band, and you could tell that they didn't expect to see as large of a crowd as they did. Their front man Joaquin kind of really seemed blown away to see as many people in the crowd in Louisville, Kentucky, of all places.
Yeah. Yeah.
For their set, and that was kind of really cool to kind of see genuine surprise and appreciation, on his face, and hear it in his voice for the crowd size.
Yeah.
So that was really awesome. And then of course, the two headliners, Judas Priest and Metallica. Um, Judas Priest was amazing. Rob Halford's late 60s, early 70s, something like that. And he still just fucking wails. It's, I, he sounds like he's in his 20s at some points. Like, he's kind of stiff and you can tell his age when he's moving around on the stage, but that voice is still just as powerful as ever. He still hits those high notes that Judas Priest is known for. And that was an incredible experience getting to hear and see that live. And then Metallica, of course. Metallica is my all-time favorite band. My second time seeing them live, and it was a great experience. They kicked off the show with a few random tracks, and then they went into playing the Black Album in its entirety backwards. Yeah,
Backwards?
They started with the last track and went all the way up.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it was
Of,
great.
so it's interesting you say that, because like you never think about the impact that like track listing has on an album and the reasons that they put them in that order. And to be honest, it can throw it off if you, I mean, that's why, honestly, in my opinion, and I totally break this rule all the time, but you should really try to listen to an album all the way through, straight down the first time, because that's the way it's intended to be listened to.
Yeah.
However, you do have some circumstances where there are other ways that have been told you can listen to the album. I don't know any in rock in particular, but the best example I can come up with is Kendrick Lamar's last album, Damn. When you listen to it the front ways, it tells one story about like with that intro and how it worked, and then the way that he constructed it, the outro also functions as an intro and can be played backwards to play a completely different story.
Interesting.
But like I know that does exist in some other, I mean, it's just totally like concept stuff. And concept albums are absolutely amazing. I love concept albums. They're great. But it takes the right artist to do it. But it's interesting you mentioned that, because sometimes when you sit there and you think about it, you're like, whoa, wait, they did that backwards. Why? That was weird. That was interesting.
Yeah. And honestly, it took me a few tracks into it to realize what they were doing. They started it, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is an interesting choice to open with this one, and then the next one played, and I'm like, okay, another interesting choice, but I mean, my favorite band, I'm not gonna question it. And then about the third or fourth track, I'm like, oh, they're playing it backward. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. That's really, really cool. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, that sounds like an incredible experience. That's just 3 or 4 back to back to back. That is just like, oh my gosh, you saw who? You saw who? You saw who?
Yeah, it
was. You get people out here sounding like owls. Who?
Yeah, it was a great lineup. It was a great experience overall. Like I said, it was a complete 180 from my first festival experience.
And that's all. That's awesome as well, because I'm really glad you got to have a positive festival experience, because everybody should at least have one. There are like, everybody's gonna have a bad concert experience, but you always want the positive concert experiences to outweigh the negative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've absolutely had that. Like the first festival experience that I've had was really my only bad concert experience. The only experience where I've, just straight up not had a good time.
Yeah.
And even that experience, like there were good points in that one too. Like, hearing Bullet for My Valentine, hearing 3 Days Grace, like there were high points in that too. Just overall, it was kind of miserable.
Yeah.
But this one was incredible. I'm so glad that I went, and I'm absolutely going to try to go back to Louder Than Life at some point.
Louisville, I'm much closer to Louisville, I feel like, than you are.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I just like, see, that's where it gets to stuff like, Warped Tour was always so convenient because it wasn't necessarily close to where I lived because like Virginia Beach is like a good like 3-4 hour drive
Hmm.
from where I live. But like actually like getting hold of the ticket as far as price wise when I was in high school and college, I mean you're talking about like 50-60 bucks compared to like 200, 300 with when you're talking about some festivals. And I've always
Yeah.
just like thrown that out the window. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. Uh,
Right. It was.
I'm not too sure there. I'm sorry. But like the idea has always intrigued me
Mhm.
because like to go somewhere over because that's the trade-off of Warp Tour being so cheap is it's only one day. You're going for one set day from like what I think noon to maybe like 10 p.m., 11 p.m.
Yeah.
if that because they have places to be the next day. But to actually go to something like Louder Than Life or getting to like some of these 2-3 day festivals and actually getting to experience the whole thing, that would be incredible. That would be absolutely crazy.
Yeah. The next time I go, I definitely want to go for more than just one day of the festival. Um, but like, living out here in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, festivals aren't really a thing that I have access to. Like I could drive the 6 hours to Chicago to go to something like Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's not much in the Midwest as far as festivals. So it was kind of an investment to go out to Louder Than Life, but I'm so glad that I did it.
You would think there would be more festivals in Virginia, but there's not. Um, Everybody just kind of stays away from Virginia. There's a lot of issues with like sound in places. A
Interesting.
lot of issues with sound in places. I remember when I was at Tech, Diplo came and played on the drill field, and the community had a cow because, well, one, I think it was on like a Thursday night or a Wednesday night. And I
Hmm.
do believe kids had school the next day, but they were like, the windows were rattling and my front door was shaking. And I was like, get over yourself. Like,
Yeah.
you live in a college town? Did you not expect this was never gonna happen? What about when they're playing football? I bet you don't care then. I bet
Right.
you don't care then. But
Yeah.
no, it's so funny. But
I know
yeah,
that there were some people from like just like little news snippets that I would catch while I was down there. I know that there were some people that complained about the noise from Louder Than Life in
oh
Louisville.
yeah, oh
And
yeah.
like I said, from my Airbnb, I could hear um, some of the sets.
But I
So like I
mean,
get why they would complain, but it was the middle of the afternoon when I was hearing them.
yeah, shoot, I'd look at them and argue, hey, when I was living in my parents' house in my neighborhood, I could hear college football every Friday night at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. They would shoot a cannon off. Like
Yeah.
it all exists somewhere. But yeah, no, fantastic and awesome for you. I like I said, I need to get out. I still haven't bought my ticket for that show, but I'm
You
getting
need
ready
to.
to. I think it's not $20, it's like 41. I didn't include the fees.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'll probably well, no, next paycheck will be the show date. So I'll pick it up this week. Um, yeah. So yeah, there was a bunch of new music that came out. And I would love to kick things off with a very, very anticipated album that I was awaiting. Wage War finally released Manic,
Hmm.
and I loved it. Um, my highlight songs, Relapse, the first song in the album, Manic, Death Roll, and the two heavy singles, Teeth and High Horse. The one song that I would say let me down the most though was the song called Godspeed, and
Hmm.
not because the song was bad, but it wasn't what I was expecting from a song with that title. It was a bit slower than I was anticipating, and I felt like something with Godspeed. I was expecting like rolling drums and just like crazy riffs and
Hmm.
like just going ham. And it kind of like it does for like a part of it, but it doesn't contain or it doesn't continue throughout the whole song. And it kind of threw me off. It's metalcore to the core. I love, and I
Yep.
mean that's really what that's the bulk of the metal that I have listened to and gotten used to listening to. And like I said, I loved it. I mean, and it's not like AOTY stuff. I'm not going to sit here and look at you and
Right.
say like it's like, oh my gosh, this is the piece of musical mastery. It's not, but it's just something that I'm going to throw into my car and jam really heavy to, like I have been with Donda and like freaking Baby Keem's album. It's just like those aren't like album of the year contenders, but they're good music and they supply some really, really good songs that I'm just gonna go really hard to. It's like I'd probably give it like a 7.58 out of 10.
Okay.
Somewhere in that range for me. There were a couple, maybe like two or three slow songs, and I wasn't necessarily. They did a really good job at combining the slow and heavy together in those songs. Um, but I was impressed. I know not a lot of other people were as impressed as I was.
Hmm.
Um, and
I was one of them. Like
yeah,
I've listened to the album too, and I'm a metalcore kid. That's kind of was my first foray into metal. But as a a teenager and adult, I grew up listening to classic rock and thrash metal. But kind of as I started getting out on my own and exploring, that was kind of my first really genre that I explored on my own without my parents throwing on something for me to listen to and me digging it. So metalcore is what I started this journey on, we'll say. And for me, it was classic metalcore, but eh, it was just kind of average to me. There was
yeah.
nothing about it that really stood out to me. It was good.
Who?
I'm not going
Oh,
to say it was bad because I'm not going to
I
say
think it was.
much is bad, but
I think it was Josh who said about the Of Mice and Men track, which actually I'm gonna say I did not think it was whatever, but I want to say that Manic was safe. I mean,
yeah,
it wasn't like they
yes,
weren't breaking any ground. It wasn't bad, but it was just like if you pulled out a dictionary and opened the book up to metalcore, this would be a straight up definition of the album
yeah,
or of the
yeah,
genre.
absolutely.
It's not crazy, it's not whatever, it's just straight up that's what we got. um but like I said, I love stuff like that because I'm not necessarily always looking for a band to just push out something that is groundbreaking stuff, because like look,
Right,
Wage War is still very young in their they have 4 albums, but they got latched onto some high, I mean they're on Fearless, they got latched onto a pretty solid label pretty quick. So they've had some growth, they're doing some things. Maybe a little bit down the road in like album 5 or 6, they might start to pick up on some nuances and stuff like that, because that's when when artists really start to like form into some change and start changing a little bit of things here and there to go the direction that they go.
right.
Um, but no, because speaking of that band that's done that, of Mice and Men, I've post Austin Carlisle of Mice and Men has been absolutely phenomenal, has been absolutely amazing. They are going and doing things that I would not have expected after, what was it, Pain or like Cold War, whatever that album was, the last one that they had with Austin Carlisle that was awful, that was just horrendous. And this new, it's going to be like another 3-song EP, song Mosaic. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely freaking amazing. And Aaron Pauley, who took over vocals full time, has absolutely done a fantastic job at going actually more, has gone heavier than the band has ever been before, and continues to be heavier than the band has ever been before. And I love it. It's fantastic. That I do feel like they are breaking ground for what this band used to be and what they are moving towards in the future. I don't know if you did get a chance to listen to that one, Spoon. Did
I
you?
haven't got a chance to listen to that one. That was one of the ones that slipped through the cracks for me with, traveling out to Louisville and then traveling up to Minneapolis to catch the metal tour of the year.
Oh yeah, and then I forgot about that one. How was that?
That was also great. I didn't get there in time to see Hatebreed's set, and I missed most of Trivium's set, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I got there for the last, I think, 3 Trivium songs. And then, of course, heard Lamb of God and Megadeth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually really surprised with Megadeth. I didn't expect Dave Mustaine to sound as good as he did.
Okay.
With kind of he's getting up there in age, and
And
he's
the
been through
amount,
cancer.
yeah,
Um,
cancer and all the other stuff that has gone
yeah,
on in the past with Megadeth, and
right. I didn't expect him to be as on point as he was, but their entire set I thought sounded really really good. Um, and of course, Lamb of God was Lamb of God. They're
Yeah.
just kick you in the face hard
And
all
then,
all the time.
wasn't Larry there too?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to meet up with him because I didn't know he was there until afterwards. But
that was crazy because you guys were in the chats at ATB, and like I think he was just talking about it because he had a like really crazy experience with his girlfriend, who like screamed at the was it the Lamb of God,
I believe so. Yeah, Randy
the
Bly.
the guitarist or the bassist?
I thought it was Randy, the
Oh,
singer, but it
oh, it's
might
for the
have.
singer. Okay, so but like whatever it was, like she screamed at him and it got his attention, and they like gave her a bunch of guitar picks and stuff like that because they're like, oh my god, like holy shit,
Yeah,
how like wow,
that's an
I mean like
incredible experience.
people on stage with all of the music and somebody screamed loud enough to get there. That's insane. I mean everybody's screaming, but to like single out and like startle somebody with how like forceful whatever, but that I mean that's awesome. Yeah, that like stuff like that, that's crazy. But yeah, it's I was thinking about it. You saw Metallica and Megadeth in like the span of like what 2-3 days.
Yeah, yeah. Um, saw Megadeth on Sunday, and then sorry, saw Metallica on Sunday, and then Megadeth on Tuesday.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Especially as we've said in the earlier episode, given all the history behind the two bands, and that there would be no Megadeth without Metallica because they kicked Dave out of the band. Blah, 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 blah. We're not going to rehash all of that, but yeah, that's awesome. I really, it's just pushing me to buy this ticket. I just need to buy the ticket.
do it, man. Do it.
Yeah,
Getting to see live music is an incredible experience.
it's been too long. It's been
Yeah.
too long. Um, so back to some more new music that dropped. There was another song that I really liked by Volbeat, Shotgun Blues. I don't know if you got to peep that one.
I heard it. I don't really remember it though.
Okay.
It wasn't
Um,
anything that stood out to me. So
I would say it was more hard rock with some just really,
yeah.
really, really heavy. Because like I've never really listened to Volbeat before. That's like a band that I know is very popular. So I was like, oh, new song, new music. Let me check it out. And I mean it was really cool. I liked it, like the kind of vibe that it had.
Hmm.
And like if it came on, I'd be like, oh yeah, man, it's a cool song. We going at like sitting at the bar, like
Yeah.
yeah. But like it's not something I'm gonna download onto my phone and be like repeatedly streaming. Um, Memphis May Fire released a new song called Somebody, and that was extremely different from the rest of the stuff that they have released this year.
Was it? I didn't get a chance to check that one out either.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say in a bad. I actually liked it. It was kind of like he like Maddie. There isn't as much screams and there isn't as much uncleans, but it's still very like edgy,
Hmm.
and it's like it's not rapping, but it's like just there's like a degree of separation. Um, so it's like on the verge of like being new metal, but it's not quite new metal.
Okay. Interesting.
That's kind of like the only way I can think of, like, because like it's just the way that he's going with the beat and like going on to feel everything. It's kind of I can't really like put it into words, but it's not bad, but it's not quite what I would have expected from them.
Hmm.
And it was very very different. And I'm not gonna say it was bad. And it was just interesting.
Yeah.
It was a stab at doing something different, and I'm not gonna knock it because that's always kind of cool.
Right.
Um, I've got a couple more things lined up here, but let's. What were some things that you have listened to over the past 2
Yeah.
weeks?
So from a singles standpoint, the kind of two that really stood out to me were Bullet for My Valentine released another new single,
Oh,
Rainbow Veins.
was it a new single? I thought it was
Yep.
the old song.
Nope.
Man,
Nope.
I skipped it because I thought it was the one that they released after Shatter, and I was like, I don't want to listen to this again. Why are you pushing this?
Yeah. No. It was really good. Um, it was really kind of different than the singles that they've released so far.
Okay.
It was a bit more mellow,
Okay.
um,
Okay.
but at the same time, it had a lot of heft to it. Still, it still had a lot of chunk while being kind of more mellow and kind of pulled back. Matt's got some really great cleans on it. Padge does some great guitar work. It's it's a really good single. It's the fourth single from the album.
Okay.
So I can't wait for this one to drop.
Yeah, because Shatter was number 2, right?
I forget what order they dropped in. I know
Okay.
that this is the fourth.
All right. And then tomorrow, actually at midnight, should be Ice Nine Kills next single, which I hope is something better than they have already released, because if it continues in the same vein that I'm seeing, I'm not too hyped for the Silver Screen Part 2.
Yeah,
And I feel kind of weird saying that because I've always loved Ice Nine Kills. They've always been really solid. But this album is not looking like something I'm going to like at all so far.
yeah. I haven't been terribly thrilled. I mean, like it's like I like I said, I'm not going to say they're bad, but it's not anything that's grabbed me.
They're not heavy at
Yeah.
all. That's that's what I found so appealing and kind of gave me the draw for the other ones with Every Trick in the Book and the Silver Screen Part 1 is that they're heavy. They're good. They're really good. Like those are two albums that when they came out, I was like, yeah, this is probably one of my favorite albums that came out this year because the songs were phenomenal. There were a couple here and there that but very few that were bad. These are just like not like I listen to them and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
There's just nothing. It's like I'm just waiting for something else and there's nothing. Maybe like one of the singles. I don't remember which one. It wasn't the first one. I think it was the second one. That one was like okay. It was that was the best of the four that have been is there I think there's been four so far and there or this is going to be the
I
fourth
think I
tonight.
think this is going to be the fourth.
Yeah, so I really hope that it's something that's a bit heavier and kind of gives me some drawback and brings me back in, but at this point it's probably going to be like the third or fourth album I listen to next week that after everything drops because there's a lot that's coming out next week.
Yeah.
Um so I have not gotten to listen to much that came out today. I don't know if you have gotten to anything.
The only thing that I've gotten to was the Trivium album that dropped.
Okay. Oh no, that's a lie. I did listen to and the only reason I listened to this is because of my past experience of meeting them before. But I did listen to like Moths to Flames' new song,
Hmm.
and that was interesting. I mean, I've never in my life really listened to like Moths to Flames besides a couple of songs, but it wasn't bad. They just I have a harder time deciphering exactly what they're saying in their lyrics and stuff, and
Hmm.
that's kind of when I start to because there's a fine line. There's a fine line of like screaming and like being intelligible and understanding what's going on and understanding what's being said, and just like being guttural and just
Yeah.
throwing it out there. And I'm not gonna say it's a bet. Like there are people that enjoy that, but I have to understand it to a certain degree. To a certain degree.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, like I don't get into like the super guttural, constant guttural um, music, but like I have to be able to tell that there are lyrics. Like I have to be able to hear words. I don't need to necessarily be able to, hear a song once and know what all of the lyrics are, but I need to
Yeah, yeah.
know that
The overall
it's
like
more than just a guttural noise being
yeah,
made.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, did you hear the Devil Wears Prada's new song?
I have not. I
Okay.
know that they dropped one, but I haven't heard it.
Yeah, that was called Sacrifice. I have listened to that a couple times. I never really got into the Devil Wears Prada when I was younger. And the only song I really remember was A Sailor's Prayer. But I loved it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
It
I never
seems to have
listened.
gotten a lot of good fanfare online too, from what I've seen,
Mhm.
specifically on that drop day. But yeah.
Yeah, I never listened to The Devil Wears Prada either.
Mhm.
But just within like the last couple of months, I heard their song "Forlorn," and I really loved that. Um, so they're probably a band that I should go and explore more and see if that was just a one-off or if there is some stuff in their catalog that I would like. They're kind
I
of one of
mean,
those
if
bands that
I'm
I just kind of ignored offhand.
yeah, I feel like if I'm not mistaken, they are like somewhat of titans in the like metalcore
Yeah,
scene. I mean, I feel like they're pretty big. Um, but
yeah, they're a
like,
big name, but it's just one that
yeah,
I've never been on my radar.
yeah, exactly, exactly. There's been a few I would say like I know August Burns Red is absolutely huge, but I've never really listened to them.
Yep, same.
And there's a few songs here and there. But yeah, like I said, it was pretty good. And I would definitely be interested if they're coming out with an album. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you don't just release Lucy's.
Right.
That's and that it's kind of trending that way with some bands at this age or like at this time period right now. And I think that if there's like bands like of Mice and Men, they have this will be the third 3-song EP that they will release in the year. I can see bands moving to that sort of like that style of release
Hmm.
because in the end, depending on how you view release schedules, it will lead to more music for consumers over the course
Right.
of like from year to year, as opposed to an artist releasing one album and then you waiting like 2 to 3 years. Because I mean, like
Yeah.
somebody, and I also feel like the pressure can get to a lot of these artists, like somebody like Pierce the Veil, who have released and have built up so much hype. It's been like 5 years, almost 6 years since they've released something, and they keep talking about it, but things keep changing with different like lineup changes and stuff like that, and it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to come together. But like normally, you got somebody like the Devil Wears Prada, they release a single. There's probably an album coming.
Probably.
um, A band who is known for releasing a lot of singles, though, and did release another song that I mean, I will always listen to them if they release song. 4 Year Strong released a song called Pipe Dream. Ironically coincided with the release of the announcement of the casting for the Mario movie. And Pure Noise played on with that. They're like, if you think about it, Pipe Dream is just a song about the Mario movie. And I was like,
That's hilarious.
okay, okay, Pure Noise. Okay, I'm still gonna buy a concert ticket, but I'll remember that. Uh, but yeah, I loved it. It's good old fashioned easy core at its finest. I mean, 4 Year Strong just makes you want to get up and just go run circles everywhere and just
Mhm.
forget about the world for a couple minutes. Um, I love it's actually they have my favorite. See, if I knew where it was, I would go and grab it, but I don't know where it is because it's my favorite piece of merch that I own, and I'll probably wear it next. I'll probably wear it next or next podcast because it's just so minimalist, and it
Mhm.
just it for me it encapsulates everything that is 4 Year Strong, just how like ridiculous and dumb they can be at times. But yeah, that's they're the name that I'm looking at this concert ticket, and I'm like, mm-hmm, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that yeah, man, I'm probably gonna hop off of this podcast and buy that ticket straight away. Like,
You should. You should.
oh,
But speaking of music that makes you want to get up and move, um, as far as like singles that dropped over the hiatus that we've been on, um, Shadow of Intent released another song, uh, from Ruin We Rise,
ooh,
and it's, oh my god, it blew me away. Shadow of Intent is a big name, is becoming a big name in the deathcore scene.
okay,
Ben Dewar, their vocalist, is kind of really making waves. Kind of along the lines of Alex Terrible. Getting known for just his vocal range and the absolute insane deep gutturals that he has. But kind of unlike Alex, Ben is, I feel, more much more versatile. He's got incredible guttural lows, but he also has really sharp mids and really good highs, and he's great in his vocal technique to be able to switch between all of them, and it's really on display in from Ruin We Rise. It was a great song. After they released their last their last single, I didn't think they could top it, but they absolutely did with this one. I don't know if they have an album on the way. I assume they do,
Yeah,
but it's going to be something that I'm going to check out as soon as it drops.
yeah,
I'm really
that's
excited
awesome.
about this band.
Yeah, all sounds great. Um, one thing I'm very intrigued about that's coming up, and I actually didn't know about this at all. And the only reason I bring them up because their last album was a bit more rockier than I was expecting, and it was probably I'm gonna say personally, it's my favorite album by them of all time. I have been told that it can't be better than their self-titled, but it is second best of all time for this band. But Mayday Parade, a couple years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, released Sunnyland. And that album went hard. There were quite a few songs that had a really heavy rock vibe. Something that I was not expecting from a band like Mayday Parade, and really goes back to their sound that was the self-titled Jason Lancaster era, back when they were chasing down Warp Tour every day and being like, hey, we're Mayday Parade, buy our CDs, we want to be on Warp Tour, and then became one of the most I want to say they've probably been on Warp Tour, probably the most of one of any bands that has been in the Warp Tour scene.
Mm-hmm.
um just from their pure dedication. But they are releasing a new album up here soon, and it has such a Mayday Parade title, what it means to fall apart. um and I'm very interested, but I so like I said, when I was searching through stuff, I found some other things here and there. Another band. This is how I not how I found 4 Year Strong, but I knew 4 Year Strong was releasing something, but it was in the same playlist as them. Um, I listened to a few of the singles that they've released so far, and it's not completely different vibe than the last album. Not necessarily, again, not in a bad way, just not something that I listen to in that sense. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to blame that because I would say Sunnyland was kind of out of the ordinary album, out of random, because they kind of do that. They have so many different styles for so many different albums. I mean, they have a really really back to the history, like roots and punk album. It's called Black Lines, and it's really different in that sort of sense of like just being really like punky in sound. They play the emotional genre very well. Everybody knows this. They
Mm-hmm.
have all of the songs. They have Black Cat and all of that stuff, and that's that one side. But like just hearing that one album, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I love it. This is great. Um, but I do think this is going to be a return back to that. And again, not a bad thing. And probably more akin to what their fans are used to. Their like diehard fans are used to. But probably not necessarily something I am going to be checking out as
Mm-hmm.
heavily.
Yeah,
Um,
they've never been a band that I've been interested in. They're a name that I know, and like I've heard a few of their songs, and I'm like, yeah, this is all right. And it's not something I'm going to complain about if it comes on, but it's not something that I am going to seek out. Um,
Nice.
and so I'm like, it's not going to be a release that I'm probably going to listen to when it comes out.
There we go.
Nice.
Yeah, got that at the last Warp Tour I went to. Yeah, this album is freaking incredible. But as I said, I was not nearly as impressed. I was introduced to them through live performance because, like I said, the first Warp Tour I went to, they were one of the first bands that were on
Mm-hmm.
the main stage, and I was waiting for the one next to them. And the second year I went, my sister was a very big fan, and she wanted to see them, so that was one of the first bands that played. But the year I went alone. I went to see them. And I was going through a very weird time. As I said, they're very big for the emotional genre,
Right.
the sad boy pop punk. And in that time that I saw them and they released that album, I was a very sad boy going through a lot of things. And
we've all been through our sad
oh
boy
yeah, oh
phase.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, that it's just been a lot of fantastic music that's come out the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And again, I apologize for today and not catching the stuff from today, because they're finally, after a couple weeks, and I'm not sliding Lil Nas X in this comment whatsoever. I didn't listen to that album as much, but Don Toliver released a new album in hip hop. There hasn't been a really big hip hop release for me recently, so I've been going real hard on the metal and rock. And then I was at my friend's house last night. We were chilling, and I just pulled up my because I mean the internet's not the greatest out there. I was living there for a little bit,
Mhm.
and it's just like a little bit rural. So the internet options you have.
Yeah.
So I wasn't
That's the
expect.
situation I'm in.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So like I wasn't expecting it to load, and I mean it's not something that bothers me. I was just like, hey, if it loads, it loads. Um, and I loaded it up, and both him and I really like Don Toliver, and I looked down and I was like, I had no idea. And he was like, what? What? And I showed it to him, and he was like, oh, that's going to be good. And I was like, you know what I'm listening to on the way home? I'm going to see if I can download some of these songs before I leave. And I actually was able to download just enough to make it to the point where, because it's not I mean it's not just his house, like literally
Yeah.
like when I drive back into town, it's probably like the first 15 minutes of the drive, no
Mhm.
cell service.
Yep.
I had enough downloaded, and I hit enough LTE pockets here and there that it loaded up the 4 songs that I had added, and then seamlessly transitioned into the rest of the album on the rest of the way home.
Nice.
Oh, it was like it was a miracle. It was gorgeous. But yeah, there is some stuff I do want to really listen to that Trivium album.
Yeah. The
I've
Trivium album is the only thing that I've listened to that dropped today. I listened to it last night, and like I was talking to Josh about it
okay.
um, when it dropped. Um, it it's nothing that blew me away. It was just kind of it's a solid release. Um, and I told him when we were talking about it last night that I would um, go to bed and listen to it again in the morning with fresh ears.
Mhm.
And I did that today. I did listen to it earlier this morning, um, and I liked it more on the second listen
Okay.
than I did last night. I thought some of the tracks that I just thought were kind of meh really hit more for me when I was listening to it with fresh ears. Um, but it's still kind of for me. Trivium has 3 tiers of albums. They have god tier albums, which are for me Crusade, Shogun, The Sin and the Sentence, and What the Dead Men Say.
Yeah.
And then they have their kind of next tier, which are good albums, but not nothing that blows me away. That's kind of where I put Ascendancy, and that's where I'm going to put this one.
Okay.
That's where I put their debut Ember to Inferno.
Okay.
And then they have their bottom tier albums that are just they're not for me. That's where Silence in the Snow, Vengeance Falls, and In Waves fall for me. So this album's going to be better for me anyway, better than those 3, but it doesn't reach the heights of those 4 god tier albums, because all of those albums have something, at least a couple of tracks on them that absolutely just blew me away the first time I heard them. The Crusades has Entrance of the Conflagration, and Sadness Will Sear. Shogun has Kiristego Men and Shogun. What the Dead Men Say, I was blown away by Sickness Unto You. This album doesn't have anything that blew me away. The closest anything came to that for me was the last track on the album, The Phalanx. And it was the single that they just released a couple of days ago, the one that they did a video for in partnership with Elder Scrolls Online for their end of the year event.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool, kind of getting to see some gameplay elements in there, and getting a heavy metal band pairing with a video game. That was pretty cool.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I
but
had to look up the
yeah,
spelling of it because there is a Pokemon called Phalanx, And I
Oh
was like, I swear to God, it's spelled the same way, and they named this song after Pokemon. But no, no, no,
no,
it's not. It's not. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, shoot, in the Court of the Dragon, what a name!
yeah.
Like
In the
you
Court of the
can't.
Dragon is fantastic, and it's
And I just look at the album art, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is glorious. I love it.
yeah.
And that and
Unfortunately, the album just kind of doesn't live up to that for
yeah,
me. Um,
that's what I love about rock and metal, as opposed to pop, as opposed to, and I actually think this is changing a bit in pop, but it's it runs rampant in hip hop and stuff like that. I like really cool designed artwork. I don't want to see the artist.
mhm,
I'm sorry. I don't. Your name is already on it. I don't want to see a picture of you. Put it in the CD booklet. Put it in there. Put it somewhere. Give if you sell the album on Apple, include all the album artwork so they can have those pictures. Don't put yourself on the cover. Like, do something cool. Do some cool
yeah,
design. Oh, I just hit my mic. Sorry. Do some cool design. Do something. Don't just take a really cool picture of yourself and slap it on the cover. Like,
yeah. Well,
I
and
mean,
that's a big thing
and
in some genres of metal. You know, power metal has just crazy album art. You know, some death metal bands. So you know, it's still out there in the metal world. It's just
and I would say there are some exceptions to that rule, because they do find a really cool way to incorporate themselves into the album art. The ones I could probably say for certain, Lil Wayne.
mhm,
All of Lil Wayne's the Carter albums build up throughout his age and have a theme. That's fair. I'll give that. Um, Outcast with Aquemini, they turned themselves into animate. They animated themselves and did all this really cool stuff with it. It's not just we took a picture of ourselves somewhere at and made a scene and stuff like. No, they
mhm,
actually took some time and went into it. You got to be able to do that. Yeah, if you're gonna
yeah,
do just pictures of yourself, you have to be able to change it in some sort of way, and it's not just you. Like,
yeah.
make it
That's kind
cool.
of what I wish Slaughter to Prevail would have done with their Costalum drop from a few months ago. I think August, back in August.
Okay.
You know, it's an amazing album. It's probably going to be, if not my album of the year, one of my top 5 albums. But the cover is just Alex Terrible standing there with his arms crossed in his, you
Yeah.
know, in the face mask. But still,
Yeah.
it's just him. And it's
That's
just, you know,
man.
a black background and him standing there. I wish they would have done something more with the album art.
It's the freaking. It's the last quarter of the year.
Yeah.
I haven't even begun to think of a top 5 yet. Oh my god! Let alone an album of the year. I don't even know what's released. I have to go back. What we started this in. What when did we start? When did we start this album? This podcast?
7 weeks ago. So
Just yeah, 7. Well, 8 weeks ago because we had a
8 weeks
1 week
ago.
break.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 8 weeks ago, so 2 months ago, I'm gonna have to go back for the whole first half of the year and
Oh,
look
yeah.
back at what dropped because I honestly was not that paying that close of attention.
Yeah, same. There's so much that dropped in the first
Yeah,
half of the year that I need to go back to. Like, really, the only thing that I've listened to front to back that reaches kind of that conversation for me that was a band called Vexed. They released an album called Culling Culture,
okay.
and I did listen to that, and that was an incredible album. But that's really the only thing from the first half of the year that I listened to in its entirety.
I also am now realizing I'm gonna have some insane timeline issues because the past 2 years have kind of like just melded into one big clump. Like,
Yeah,
did Tame Impala release their album this year or last year? Because if it was this year, that's 100% my album of the year because I've never heard a better album than that album. But I don't even remember. I don't
I
know if it was
don't remember
2020 or
either.
2021. That's going to be a big problem because I mean honestly, once we went into quarantine, nothing has changed as far as like me having to wear a mask at work. So therefore, I'm still stuck in the same time period that I'm just like, yo, what's going on? I like when
Yeah,
I got transferred during the middle of COVID to a different store for like a good like 3, 4, 5 months. When I went in one time, actually no, when I was leaving, we were in the office and I took my mask off one time and they were like, "Oh my God, Zach, you have a beard and a nose piercing? What's this?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys haven't seen me without my mask on. Holy cow." Like that's insane to me. Like that you don't know what I look like just
yeah,
straight up. But yeah, like the going back the past like from 2020 March 2020 to now, it's gonna be a lot of like me trying to figure out like and decipher. All right, well, when was this released, and when was this released, and stuff
yeah.
like that.
That's going to be a real problem for me too. Just
I
figuring out what came out. Okay, so
the
what
only
came
thing
out
I
in 2020?
can
What came
tell
out in
you,
2021?
the only thing I can tell you for a fact is Kanye 100% dropped in 2021 because I had to fucking
Yeah.
wait for that shit. So, uh, also, I feel the need to like probably anger some people, and I just want to do this. You guys have been seeing me drink a beverage here, and I just love this. I am currently drinking a pumpkin
Oh,
spice Bud Light seltzer.
oh,
It is incredible. It is
I don't believe you.
amazing. It is amazing. Um, it is okay. Well, do you want to know the other flavors that were in this pack?
I don't know. Do I?
Apple crisp, which was arguably the worst of the entire. No, second worst. Toasted marshmallow.
Oh no.
That one was not good. And maple pear, which actually was surprisingly not
Hmm,
bad.
okay.
But pumpkin spice took the lead. It's the best. I now the problem is I don't want to buy this fall pack just to get 3 pumpkin spice seltzers. So if they sell a like actual like 6 or 12 pack of Bud Light pumpkin spice seltzers, that'll be fantastic. But for now, this is probably the last one I'll have for a while. But I just wanted to treat this occasion because F it, we're doing it live.
Yeah.
Um, this has been fantastic. Do you have anything that you're specifically looking forward to? Sorry, I'm trying to get my a new internet tab here
Hmm.
going because I need to get that Loudwire list up.
Yeah.
Well, what's
Yeah.
coming out next week?
I've got it up on my screen here, and really kind of for the 15th, there isn't a whole lot that's dropping that I'm interested in.
Okay.
Gemini Syndrome is dropping another album that I'm probably going to check out. Obviously the Ice Nine Kills,
Oh yeah,
that we
Ice
talked
Nine
about.
Kills. So I mean
Um,
that's really going to be dependent on whether or not those first 3 singles have been. Maybe they decided to release the slowest and the softest of the singles first, and then they'll get the rest of the heavy stuff on the actual album. But like I said, I'm very disappointed so far, and I'm upset that I'm disappointed because I
yeah,
love Ice Nine Kills. I love them. They've
yeah. I
always
mean,
been a very solid band in the metalcore genre. It's been great.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. Like I'm going to check out the album because it's a metalcore album and it's Ice Nine Kills, and I've been a fan of Ice Nine Kills for a while, so I'm going to check it out. But I'm not thrilled about it. Like I'm not
Yeah.
excited to check it out. It's just something that I'm going to do. Um,
The one thing that
really,
has been propelling these release days has really been the
mhm,
singles.
yeah,
There have been some high profile singles that have come out over the past. Now, I would say it's October, and as metal fans and rock fans, we need to consider this and keep this in consideration because whether we want to admit it or not, spooky season does follow around the metal and the rock genre,
hmm,
and a lot of bands will look to October to either release albums or release singles for hype and stuff like that. It's just a thing
yeah,
because you have to appeal to your fan base, and if this is what your fan base likes, you got to appeal to it. I mean, we didn't talk about the new Ghost song.
yes.
Oh, that was really good.
I loved it.
That was
It was fantastic, and I'm really excited
I
um, if
I've
if they're dropping new music. And I know they're going out on tour, and I'm gonna get my tickets, and I'm gonna see that.
I until Enter Sandman, I never listened to a single Ghost song, and
Oh man,
from
I've loved
listening
Ghost for a
to
while.
from going to that to what was it what was the song called?
Uh, Hunter's Moon.
Hunter's Moon. Yeah. That 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 was yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. I
You
loved it.
should go back and listen
Yeah,
to some of their older stuff. I'm a big fan.
yeah. I
It's
heard
really fun rock.
it's yeah. I've always heard their name. Who did they beat out a couple years ago for the Grammy?
I couldn't tell you. I don't pay attention to Grammy
They're
season.
well, all I can remember is that it was kind of controversial because it should have gone to somebody else. I can't remember. Um, awards and nominations. 2019? No. 2016? Best metal performance in 2016, and they went up again. It might have been because I just really wanted them to win, or wanted Slipknot to win. That's probably what it was. That's
Probably.
probably what it. That's probably what it was. Because it was for Custer, and it was probably because I really liked that song.
Oh, that was yeah, it was a great song.
Specifically,
Yeah. But
Sirius is what beat
Cerise,
it out. Cerise is what beat it out.
yeah, and Cerise is a great song. I loved it. I love Square Hammer. I love Rats. I love a few of their songs that aren't singles.
So they're not
They're a really fun rock
necessarily.
band.
So they're not necessarily metal.
Nah, I would put them more in a hard rock category than metal.
Okay, okay. What about
Um,
have you ever listened to Tool?
oh yeah, I'm a huge Tool fan.
They're like more on the rock side as well, right?
Yeah, progressive rock, progressive metal,
Okay, okay.
and kind of depending on how you define things. I'm not a huge genre guy. If I like it,
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
Um,
The only reason I really ever look for genres, I would say, is just more so I can get some sort of sense or idea of what I'm going into, like
yeah,
what to expect. So that way I'm not just like blindsided. Now, granted, you can get blindsided by a lot. It doesn't matter what the band is. I mean, I said earlier, I got blindsided by Memphis May Fire by somebody. I mean, I never would have expected that from them ever.
yeah,
That it was just something completely different that they had ever done before, but it's not a bad thing. Um,
yeah. I was
but
talking to Josh about kind of about this last night as well. When I've been looking for things that I'm going to listen to for these podcasts, I've been looking a lot at the Loudwire metal calendar release,
mhm,
and then kind of on Friday afternoons, I will go to the Metal Injection website,
okay.
and they have a list of everything that dropped on Fridays, and
Oh,
they will actually tell you what they think the genre is for that
okay,
band,
okay.
and that's I've really liked that because I'll go through that list and if if something is labeled as thrash or melodic death metal, um, it's going to be something that I'm gonna be like, okay, I've never heard of this band,
Yeah.
but this is a genre I enjoy, so I'm going to go listen to it.
That's what's always been so interesting about my ability, or not, I wouldn't say my ability, but my idea of finding new music and specifically using Apple Music is their definition of metal is very broad.
Yeah,
Their definition of hard rock is very broad, but it's not necessarily very broad as a bad thing. They just don't want to exclude stuff that because and as you said, you're not a big genre person. I'm not necessarily a big genre person in general. I don't think it really matters,
yeah,
and I'm not a big genre person as in it doesn't really matter what it is. But I understand using genres for identification, and people have to understand that what metal is to one person is completely different to the next person.
right. And that's
And
why I haven't been a genre guy because there is
yeah,
so much elitism
I
in the
because
metal
I bet
world.
you if we were asked by the same person in two different places, like if the same person was in Virginia and looked at me and asked me what's a metal band, I would probably give a very different genre based answer than if he went to Iowa and asked you that question of what's a metal band,
Right.
because I would probably give him something more along the lines of metalcore, whereas you would probably go for something more along the lines of like black or thrash or stuff like that,
Yeah.
and more so as a resemblance of what we listen to in the active day. Um,
Right.
but like that's where you have to start to like to differentiate that stuff and realize that. And like I'm not like trying to like label like specific people in specific genre, because people want to like call out specific genres for having elitists and stuff, but it happens in every single genre.
Yeah.
There's elitists and people that want to like define stuff and make things a certain way in every single genre. It was a problem at the radio station that I was at when I was in college. That's why the metal section sucked, because they were very, very elitist about what could be in the metal section and what could not. That's why there was only one Metallica album.
Hmm.
How do you do that at Virginia Tech? It's Metallica. But yeah, I mean, it's so fun, and I there's so much stuff coming up that's it's going to be really fun, really exciting. And we're at least they have best metal songs of 2021 according to Loudwire, that is. And I can look at something to be like, oh, this is all the stuff that came out.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna be relying heavily on Loudwire's uh, metal release calendar to kind of go back and look at a lot of the stuff that I missed, because like you said, we are in the last quarter of the year, so I really do need to catch up on what dropped in the first half of the year before I kind of think about what might be my album of the year.
it's crazy because I mean,
Um, but
I
it's
can't believe we're already in October. It
yeah.
definitely, I definitely feel like this.
Well, and with the releases that are coming up next Friday, we're going to be in the middle of October.
Yeah, yeah. There, and I will let everybody know right now. There is another hip hop release that now it's not a new release. It's a re-release, but it's something that's near and dear to my heart. They are releasing Mac Miller's uh mixtape
Mm.
Faces next week on streaming services for the first time. So that I will definitely be listening to that. You might see an emotional tweet or two from my account because I was a very big Mac Miller fan. I need to get a new poster because the one that I had did not make it through my past moving process.
Hmm.
But that will definitely be spinning. And there's just a bunch coming up, and it's coming to the end of the year, and a lot of bands like to make their announcements at the beginning of the year for releases at the end of the year, or plan for the end of the year / beginning of the next year. So I mean, we sit here and talk about like it's always a hot time for release, but really anytime's a hot time for release. I
True.
mean, like don't like release your stuff in like what, like March. Like what goes on in March unless you're Irish. If you're Irish, then yeah, do that. But like what's going on in March? Um, sorry if you have a birthday in March. Isn't that tax day? No, that's April. Hey,
No, that's
that's
April.
something
Yeah.
still. That's something still. Um, but yeah. So, did you have
Yeah.
anything else that you wanted to touch on this episode?
No, I don't think so. I think that's I think we got through basically everything that I had in my notes.
Yeah, it's like we said, it's been about 2 weeks since we've been back. But we're back on a better release schedule, back and better than ever, learning stuff, doing more stuff. You can not only catch, I mean, Spoon has been doing stuff with ATB before I was doing stuff with ATB. And I came in specifically because of this podcast, but we got some more stuff in the making. You could also catch me at Dolphins ATB as well as Spoon, who does
Hmm.
stuff over at Dolphins ATB. And I'm working on a little something else in a different sport that's going to be announced here hopefully soon. And I'll let you guys know about that when it comes up. But this, I'm very excited, but it's something that I feel like will be very ambitious for me because it's not something I mean, I say that as if I ever had a music podcast before, and here we are 7 episodes
Right.
deep doing a live stream on Twitch. Um, but it's something. It's not a sport I've really deeped or dive that deep into as deep. I watch it, but I haven't really dived as deep into like actually like sitting down and like giving it like full and utter as I do like football.
Mhm.
So this is going to be something very interesting, and I'm very excited. Um, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I can't wait to tell you guys. But this has been Blast Beats episode 7. We'll do it live. Here we are. We're ending it up. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Please let us know if there's anything we can do in the future for it to be better. I'm going to try to see if we can get some overlays, some things here and there, possibly pre-plan some pictures to pull up some
Mhm.
albums and stuff like that. But we just wanted to get on here, get live, get everything going, and get back for you guys because we know it had been a couple weeks. And this has been fantastic. We got through everything. There was so much to talk about, so much to discuss. And man, I mean, literally 7 days from now is the 15th, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to do this on Thursday next week because that's the date of the show that I will be attending. So ironic that back-to-back weeks we have shows or not back-to-back, but two different shows that we both now will have getting in the way of recording, but we will
Yeah.
make it work. But this has been Blast Beats. My name is Zach Nur, and you can follow me at Zach Nur on Twitter. Spoon, if you want to let them know where they can follow you.
Yeah, you can follow my personal account at Spoonful of Sport, or you can follow both me and Zach tweeting on the official Blast Beats Twitter account at ATB_BlastBeats.
And I hope you guys have a fantastic and amazing day the rest of this Friday afternoon. We'll see you guys soon. Stay classy, stay amazing, and see you in a week.